Hello, one and all, and welcome back to another episode of Interstellar Radio podcast, focused on NHL, partnered with Supernova and NRG Kia. And once again, I'm back. Alongside me is Gordo as our co-host, and we've got two guests today. We've got both Messages and Coach Elijah from Lit Esports. Welcome, both of you. How are you all doing?
Not great.
Okay.
All
right. Care to expand on that a little bit?
Well, you watch the games.
All right.
Okay.
Well, it's just the games. It's not the vibe. It's not the aura around
No,
the
of course
recording.
not. The aura's fine.
Discord.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good.
We did watch the games, and unfortunate Messages. Hopefully, you're doing a little bit better right now.
Oh no, I'm doing great. The vibes are going great. I think Elijah's just a little sad that we lost. I mean, I am as well, but there's a two good teams, so it's nothing to beat ourselves over.
You've recovered. You could push it on to Elijah now. It's his responsibility now.
Yeah, part of the strategy that Elijah has as a strategic coach is to take on all the bad juju from the team, I guess. Seems to be working out pretty well there. So for anybody not familiar, of course, we mentioned the strategic coach here of Lit Esports, and Messages, the mid laner, but we want to know a little bit more about y'all. So as is tradition here on Interstellar Radio, we like to introduce our guests with two truths and a lie. So hopefully y'all have that prepared. Who would like to go first? Who gets prio on this?
I could go first, I guess.
Let's go, Messages.
Okay. So my two truths and a lie was I was a semi-professional player in Super Smash Bros. And I was actually a top 21 in Northern California.
Okay.
And then one of my other is I've solo killed Showmaker as Heimerdiener versus Silas. I was the Heimerdiener.
Okay.
And I played ADC before switching to mid.
Ooh.
Okay. Just so you know, Elijah, you can chime in as well. You might hopefully know
Unless
some
you know
of these.
the answer. Yeah, then it's.
I know the
cheating.
answers. I'm not gonna.
Okay.
Answers. Thinking to yourself, it's like
Did
your
you
ass
play AD
knows you
carry
got
before?
solo killed by Showmaker, man. He's just thinking.
Did he solo kill Showmaker as high? I mean, the Heimer Silence matchup is good for Heimer, so that's a possibility. Do we think? Okay, let's go with the easy one. Do we think Messages played AD carry before mid? The past.
50-50. I mean, it's like and this could have been for any period of time, right? This could have been like 6 years ago, like
Yeah.
hanging out in I don't know when Messages first started actually being high MMR, but like you'd be playing AD carrying gold and shit, and it doesn't even matter. So that's just it's so viable that it just feels true.
I mean, I also feel like
I'm
your Smolder
suspicious of
game.
the Showmaker one. That feels like it's like I don't know. It just feels like with how specific the Smash one was. I feel like the Smash one makes me.
I want to question.
21 is so specific, man. Top
Yeah,
21 California.
How do you get top 21 too? Because if it's usually it's like top 16, top 32, top 10, top 20. Why 21? Like, how did you end up with such an odd number?
Probably like an aggregated ranking. I vibe that.
No, Gordo, stop giving him the answers, man.
I'm not. We've never done Q&A with this.
Okay.
He doesn't have to answer shit.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say
figured
anything.
out I could be 100% win rate right now if I got to ask follow-up questions. We're not starting that shit now.
Fine. Okay.
I'm locking in you didn't solo kill Showmaker.
You going Showmaker? I'm going with the Smash Bros one. The 21's kind of an odd number to get to. Messages, where are we at?
So I never did end up solo killing Showmaker as Heimer.
Oh.
I did play the matchup in CQ, and I was up like infinite CS, but I got 3-manned on repeat by Jarvan, Shen, and Silas. So it was I was dying on repeat, but I was like up in a lot of gold. So
okay,
so I was a professional player in Super Smash Bros. And I was top 21 because they do PR top 20, but then they have honorable mentions. So basically, those just go to 25. So then I was just the number one honorable mention as 21.
Oh,
and that was me.
That's interesting. That's really cool. So gaming's just in you, one game or another.
Good stuff.
Good to know. Okay, Elijah, you're up. What's your two truths and a lie?
Well, funny you said Europe, because the first one is that I've traveled to 5 different continents for work. Second one is that I've been coaching not just esports but other sports as well for about 15 years. And the third one is that I play 4 instruments.
Ooh. 15 years is a lot of years. You said you were 28. That means you started at 13?
Yeah.
Okay.
I vaguely
That's
recall
not a
you talking
follow-up
about
question. That's just math,
coaching
by
other
the way.
sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the 15 years bit. 5 different continents, not that hard. I mean, North America, Europe, Asia, Australia, and you could like South America or Africa if you had to just like pop by one
Yeah,
of those.
those are 5 out of the 7 continents, RFC. What are you cooking right now, man?
No, I'm just saying it's not like
Okay.
impossible. It's not that hard
All right,
to
yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
get
Yeah.
there. Depending on what your job is. Played 4 instruments. Oh man.
That seems I've seen some Elijah Twitter in my time. There's a lot of music on there, among other things.
But he's not
So
playing the music.
yeah, it's there's room for some musicality in there. 15 years coaching I can't imagine coaching anybody at 13, but that doesn't mean it hasn't been done. It just means that people have different experiences than me. Hmm.
Okay, and I'm locking 4 instruments.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe 4 is just the wrong number. I'm gonna go with 4 instruments as well. I'm gonna ride RMC's coattails on this one.
Okay, Elijah. Which
That's
was
the
it?
first one. The first one was
The
the
5 Oh, I thought you
Ah.
could do it, man.
I've never
So-
traveled to a different continent for work.
You've never
Or maybe
traveled?
any
No,
continent.
for a different continent for work.
Oh,
For
work.
okay.
Oh,
For
it's the
work,
work part.
I've been
Okay.
I've been to other continents. I'm not Jesus Christ. I'm worldly, I think. But no, I
But not
played
for
4
work.
instruments. I played piano and violin for about 13 years each, I believe.
Okay.
I played French horn for 2, and I played percussion for 4.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah. That's cool. Well, did you guys know up to tonight I had not gotten any of them wrong, and now I got both of them wrong in one night.
1-1.
So-
I think that makes us tied now because
It does, Gordo.
we're now at 2 losses apiece, and however many wins. This is impossible to track by by episode number because we've had 2 dual episodes now. But
Yeah.
I'm tracking it by losses, and that means we're tied.
Okay. +0.
All right, good stuff. Good stuff. Well, let's get into some chatting about Lit a little bit. You guys
Mhm.
new to the league, this split promoted at the end of summer 2023. Just want to chat a little bit about like what the transition has been like. Has it been, especially in this new era, kind of the more open tier 2 circuit? Have things changed a lot from your guys' perspectives in both of your roles as you guys have moved from the tier 3 space to the tier 2 space? Or does it still feel pretty similar? Or if anything's different, what is it? Let's start with messages.
I think the only thing that's like really drastically different is the amount of eyes that are on you. Just the amount of people watching. You know, in tier 3, you don't really get like those numbers until maybe promotion tournament. But you know your regular season games, they don't really care as much, or your OQ games, they don't really care. Like not a lot of people watch. So definitely that has been like a really big change. And then obviously scrimming more, like a lot more than we did before. Those are the 2 really only things that have really changed from tier 2 to or tier 3 to tier 2, I would say.
So, you mentioned the eyes on you. That like, do you really feel it? Like, is it on Twitter that you feel it? Like when you're playing the games, and because I assume you're not watching like the viewer count on the stream, right? Like,
No, of course not. But I mean, just like you'll see it on Twitter. I mean, you definitely, if you watch the VOD back because you want to rewatch what you did or anything like that, you see Twitch chat all the time. You know, you that would never happen in an OQ game. You'd see the same faces every single time. There'd all be
Yeah.
people that play the game as well. But in the NACL chat, it's all just a bunch of people, totally randoms. Don't like, not saying that they're random, but you know, they're just totally new people. So I have
They
no
are
clue.
randoms. That's
Yeah.
fair.
yeah, I watch you guys. I'm around them.
So just like that. So it's just a lot. It's a lot different in that way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good stuff. How about from your perspective, Elijah? Has stuff felt super different from your role?
Well, there are the obvious things such as the switch in format. That's a
Mhm.
lot different. Um, do you play a lot of low pressure games in OQs?
Mhm.
It's just like the nature of it, especially when you're a higher seeded team. Most of Swiss is gimme games. You're not really going to lose them unless you're us in OQ2. Most of the early series and group stages tend to be a lot easier as well, unless you get 2 players banned in 2 weeks like we did. But that I think is the primary difference. There's not really any easy or wasted games anymore.
Mhm.
There's not really a week where you go in and just say you're going to 100% win, right? Like you obviously feel confident. You feel like, hey, we should win this game. If we play well, we'll win. But in OQ, there's a lot of games you go into. It's like we realistically could have one of our worst games of the year and still win. Just with how the gap is. For example, when you're like a 1 through 4 seed, you're playing essentially nobodies, right? With the
Mhm.
exception of Morningstar White, which we'll get into later. But you're playing essentially nobodies, and I think everyone can see that. I don't even think that's like a controversial thing to say. It's just there's like messages said, there's a lot more pressure.
Okay, I just found it really funny that you phrased it that way, considering that you all came up from that tier 3, right? So,
But
I
there's
mean,
tiers within tier
No,
3.
sorry,
So,
and all yeah, there are. I think that's
mhm,
there's a lot of tiers within tier 3. You can't look at the teams that don't make the main event in terms of top 16, and even a lot of the teams that do make top 16 have no chance to win the event, and they know it going in. We know it going in, which is why a lot of group stages, the top 4 teams will just do 2-0s. All right, cool, we get Saturday off. You know what I mean?
mhm.
It's the reality of the format and
Okay.
the amount of talent that's in NA.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting because I would have my first instinct would have been the opposite, right? Where you guys are now playing round robin, right? And but you kind of know who you're playing up against. So I thought it'd be easier to prep compared to like OQs, where you never knew who you're facing. So like the phase is over, and then now you know, and then it feels like really like
But
short time frames. But
the difference ended up being you didn't know in OQs, but it also didn't matter. Do you know what I mean?
fair
Like,
enough.
probably a good
I
problem to
see
have
messages
if
nodding
there's
a
like
little bit.
no footage of the guy you're playing against. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, it's a tight enough community that you know everyone that's worth knowing.
Mhm.
Very rarely is there someone that comes up, and I think Tisno is a good example of this, of someone that shows up and is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair enough. You know what? That's as good of a point as any. We'll skip around the run of show a little bit here, just because I did want to talk about kind of Kisno in particular from your perspective, Elijah. Just because, yeah, we talk a lot about talent scouting in tier 1 from tier 2 and in tier 2 from tier 3, but we don't talk a lot about moving within those tiers in tier 3. So for those who don't know, in spring 2023 OQ1. You guys are on Supernova, and by you guys I mean like Elijah and Dragoon, some of the pieces of the lit roster that is today. A And you guys have Hyper pulled up to FlyFam in the NACL, and then recruit Kisno, who was on a bottom 16 seed OQ team in that first OQ. So kind of curious, like what kind of led you guys to recruiting Kisno there and to kind of starting this big jump up for him, because you guys even at the time were like, you guys were a top 6 rated OQ team. You go up to top 5 after you recruit Kisno. You guys were contending for the promotion tournament already, and assuming you could have gone for other junglers who were like looking to make the step up. Like, what do you guys see in someone who's so new to the scene and previously playing on pretty uncompetitive teams that makes you kind of bring him into the scene, because he's evolved a lot and really stood out as one of the newer talents around.
Well, first things first, I would like to thank both FlyQuest and War Machine Hyper for jerking us around for 3 weeks and allowing Kisno's team CB Gaming to be eliminated before we lost Hyper. Because Kisno is who we wanted from the start. However, they still had games to play, so we couldn't pick them up. They wouldn't let us. So then the options got a bit dire. I think it was between Kisno, I want to say Krakadon, who at the time hadn't really been playing solo queue at all. We talked to Goo, and there was maybe one other. Kisno was who I wanted from the start. I had to convince Daruk. I talked to Fawn, who at the time was an AoE, and he said, "You should Kisno." I looked at Kisno. I said, "Kisno is new, and he's not good yet, but there's a lot of potential there. He is the reason that CB Gaming is winning games, and that team, if you saw it, should not have been winning games." So you see someone like that, and you say, "Well, we're lucky. Thank God that A, he's about to be eliminated, and B, we have the opportunity to pick him up." So we did. We worked with what he had, which at the time was a very limited skill set and a very limited champion pool. And we were able to eventually expand it to the point where he luckily peaked during the promotion tournament that someone in the call will argue we shouldn't have made in the first place.
Yeah, sure, I made that, but it's all good. It's okay. You know, what's funny is we got natived, and then they immediately changed the rules after. Whatever. It's okay.
Well, it's fine, messages. You're here in NACO now. You made it. It just took a bit of a detour, is all.
But there is something I do want to say about Kisno while we're on the topic. Kisno, on the time in Supernova, was the worst player in Supernova for a lot of the time that we were there. That's just the fact. And I'm saying this now to make it clear how much of an asset he is today. Right? To have that much growth in that sort of a period of time, Kisno is someone that deserves to be here, right? I'm sure a lot of the players at tier 2, tier 1 deserve to be there, but someone that people should be actively looking at and investing in as much as possible.
I also think one of Kisno's like really underrated quality, and will not be underrated eventually when he gets probably asked to join like a LCS team, is that he speaks fluent Korean. That is probably the best thing you could ever do for your native jungler, is speak fluent Korean, because these guys love to import from Korea. So, I mean, I think that's like a huge, crazy good thing for Kisno. And I could definitely see it being like a very good in his like contract signing or whatever comes that way. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense, right? Both the sort of the LCS affiliates, right? Fly Challengers as well as TL Challengers both have Korean mid laners, though. That would put you in a bit of a bind, wouldn't it? Messages if they go for Korean mid laners. So hopefully they go for a different spot instead.
We'll get to it later, but from the outside looking in, it looks like one of those teams might be struggling a bit from having a jungler that doesn't speak Korean. There's a little wonky mid jungle stuff going on.
Wait, does Shaden speak Korean?
What?
No,
Shaden doesn't. Okay.
Shaden.
You're mixing, yeah.
Okay. No, because I don't think Teal's. Yeah, but like neither of them speak Korean. So I was like, wait, hold up a second. Does one of them actually speak Korean?
No, I was saying Roamer speaks Korean and Keel presumably doesn't, and that's contributing to some mid jungle issues over on TLC. But either way, I do also want to talk. I mean, on that topic, messages about like your time on native and kind of that era. Kind of want to talk about how some of the changes to the NACL ecosystem feel from your perspective is like the aspirational kind of path to pro, right? Is at the time that you kind of started your journey in the open qualifiers and in tier 3, there was this objective of being able to move up to tier 2 and be kind of on a living salaried wage at that time. Now that's a lot more challenging. There's a more limited pool of that kind of funding. There's more limited slots moving up in the LCS now. Curious as to how that kind of affects things from the player perspective, and how you feel those sorts of changes have affected your journey and your decision calculus and anything else.
So yeah, I was gonna say I've been very fortunate that a lot of the rosters that I've been on so far have been able to reach a certain level in my salary, to make it so it's not as doomed as it is. To say to like kind of pursue this, I will say that it is definitely a lot scarier. Not even because of my age. I'm not that old, but just saying that like there's different things that people are doing at my age, pursuing a career, and it's definitely risky. But I really wanted it, and I really want to still play competitive, and I just hope that in spring or in summer, and then moving on to next year and everything, I could still try to pursue to eventually go to LCS one day. And it's it's just risky, just riskier than before. Definitely have to make sure that you have your college planned out, or other courses planned out, whatever you got to do after, just in case it doesn't work. Which I'm very fortunate that I have that stuff already figured out. So, but definitely, if you're a new player trying to come in, I would definitely have a backup plan almost immediately, because it is very it's an esports winter, and it probably will never end. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit doomer. Well, as well, I mean, for you, messages, because you started, correct me if I'm wrong, back in 2022, right? Back when it was still
Yeah.
PGCQ, and not the sort of NACL qualifier system.
Yeah.
Back then, like Academy was affiliates, so you had no real way to get there unless people scouted you up
Mhm.
into that. Do you think this NACL system is better, worse, the same compared to how it used to be, like with the sort of PGCQ system?
I think it's probably better a little bit,
Mhm.
because it's not as much nepotism. I mean, there's definitely still nepotism. Don't get me wrong. There'll always be nepotism in the esports scene, but it's definitely way less than before. I just think that it's really unfair sometimes what happens when NACL people that promote in, as you could see with Mirage, as you could see with Supernova, the rosters kind of randomly just blow up in the mid, and from going to that transition of tier 2 to tier 3, or sorry, other way around,
Mhm.
their roster just explodes, and it's super confusing as a fan or as a competitors, like what really did happen.
Yeah.
Because that shouldn't be. If I made tier 2, which I did, I was keeping my spot no matter what, and that's something we talked about on Lit, because I really wanted to do it. So,
Mhm.
and I think that should be kind of like a rule in general, like set in stone. Like, if this player wants to play, they should have the right to keep their spot, and they should be given like a minimum salary of however much. But which I think is like um, the only rule that's like really important about promoting, and that's probably the best change to promoting that there is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Elijah, I'm actually curious as a coach, is there like a big difference for you with how the old format used to run versus the new sort of NACL format?
Yeah, yeah, there is.
Okay.
The difference is basically what not Nemesis, what Messages said, in a much kinder way. The fact of the matter is, Tier 2 was controlled by rats, um, who seemed it in their best interest to ensure that whatever we do, please, God, please don't let good players play League of Legends in Tier 2. I'm begging you, don't do it. And now we can actually have good players playing in Tier 2 and developing in the way that they should. I think that it's only been a positive. The only downside is that now that the esports industry is broke, they can't afford to actually subsidize players the way that they should be able to. And that's an entirely different discussion for an entirely different day.
Fair enough. Yeah. I guess that's why you refer to them as rats, because they abandoned a sinking ship.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Fair enough. Yeah. I personally am a big fan of the relegation style system, and I prefer it when no team is safe. That way, every team has to kind of perform better, and yeah, it lights a fire under you, and also lets fresh blood, pardon me, kind of cycle up into the system there. But yeah, that's all interesting. But we're also here for NACL, guys, so we should probably talk about that, especially this last week. We picked you guys as guests, or you all agreed to be guests here before the last weekend happened. So um, yeah, we didn't know that y'all were gonna go too. So do we want to kind of start with that a little bit? A bit of a rough week for y'all, especially since we're past the halfway mark now for NACL. So I think you guys have what, 3 games left?
Yeah, it should be probably
Yes.
3 games.
Yeah. MU, TSG, TLC,
Yeah.
and you guys are currently sitting at 2 and 4. So this weekend, like, kind of what went wrong there? Because I know a lot of people thought, kind of viewed you guys as underdogs, but I personally actually thought that you guys could be the dark horse and upset people. And I thought this, well, at least the AOE game was a game for you all to kind of potentially upset the expectations, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just got smoldered that series. I think just as much as we didn't maybe deserve that wild card, or that wild card 2-0, that second game,
Mhm.
just as much as AoE didn't deserve the game 1. So it is what it is. But yeah, it definitely was a rough week. I think everybody kind of even we never doubted ourselves that we couldn't beat Fly C. But definitely we were going into knowing that they're the best team in the league probably. And we feel like we were just going to try to show our best form and then try to perform against them. Sadly, it didn't go as we wanted both games because we lost 2-0. But I do think that we definitely have a lot to learn from those games, and we did learn a lot. So our game against Maryville, while they are also one of the best teams in the league, it would definitely hopefully be a lot better showing than the previous week that we just had. Yeah.
Fair enough. And actually, speaking a bit about Maryville, because Maryville and FlyQuest are currently both top of the table, I'm curious your thoughts on those two teams. Like, do you think FlyQuest Challengers is undisputed number one? All our guests seem to think so. But
I actually am. Yeah, I'm kind of with Elijah.
okay.
When we, no offense to Sajed, I think his team's great, and Sajed's one of my best friends. Talked to him a lot off the game. I do think that Maryville probably is a better team than FlyQuest at the current moment. I think FlyQuest is rapidly getting worse. Even in our game, I don't think they were strong. I think if I had a lot better lane phase is in the game 1 and 2, then I think our FlyQuest games are actually pretty darn close to like a 2-1 or 2-0. But I kind of fell short in that aspect. But I do think that Maryville's mid jungle looked like the best, like 2v2 wise. Maybe not the best skill, like player wise, like 1-on-1, but definitely they work really well together, and that whole team functions as like a real team. And I think that's like probably the one thing that's separating them from Fly C.
Okay, Elijah, did you? You're already the one who shook your head, so
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what Message said rings true. FlyQuest is not as good as Maryville, in my opinion. I think that Maryville is a much better all-around team. I think beating them is more impressive. When do they play each other? Do we know? Is it
next week, same week we play them.
Okay.
Day before you guys play them.
So I think that realistically speaking, it should be a good look to set up FlyQuest for some success. Right? Oh wait, no, we play them after. Never mind.
You play them after, yeah. So
all right.
I guess you're all cheering Maryville.
Maryville is going to be going in 6-0 to our match then. And we're looking forward to attempting to hand them their first loss.
Okay, and by transitive properties, if they beat FlyQuest and you beat them, that means you all beat FlyQuest anyways, right? That's how this works.
We actually transform immediately to 4-3 on the record.
Yeah, it'd be nice if that were the case, right? Stealing seeds, stealing scores, that'd be insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys kind of mentioned that, but the loss to FlyQuest Challengers. Now, Messages, I know you mentioned that if your lane had gone maybe a little bit better, perhaps things could change. Do you think it was like individual performances that was really the problem, or like what do you think was the problem? And is this a problem that's kind of been going on throughout the split, or was it like specific to those weeks or even those specific games?
I think it's probably just an overall problem. Not necessarily the team, but just like myself. I think we're in terms like a really strong team when we get out of laning phase, but I think a lot of our laning phases are a little bit weak, and our overall planning early is not as strong as it should be, maybe. And I think that just kind of falls on my leadership early. I think a lot of times I'm too focused on trying to tell everybody what to do, that my lane I would go down 60, 50 CS. And I'm kind of walking around like a headless chicken. And I think once that like kind of fizzles out, or like I end up trying to fix that problem, and we end up doing it as a team, then I think we're definitely up there. And I think that a lot of those games that we lost against the other middle of the pack teams, they probably won't happen again. But obviously the top tier teams will obviously have a bit more advantage over us.
And well, actually, before I go on to your schedule, this is because I don't know what the dynamic is within the team. So it sounds like you're the primary shot caller, just at the laning phase or like throughout the game.
Just throughout the game.
Throughout
It's
the game?
mostly
Okay.
just me talking. If there's ever like a macro sort of thing, it's mostly just me talking, and then maybe Plux or Kisno would chime in with something,
Mhm.
but it wouldn't be like necessarily the plan or like what we were doing.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
because when you say, a lot of it was in performance, I was thinking, I feel like fundamentally, if you're getting lane gapped, I don't think you can fix that between weeks a lot of times because that's usually fundamentals. But I guess if it's shot calling, then you guys can change it between weeks, right? Or
Oh,
or I
it's
guess
not a fundamental thing. I promise you,
okay.
I'm not bad. I'm just too my brain just can't do so many things. Like I'm trying to lane, and obviously these players have been playing for a lot longer than me in the tier
Mhm.
2. Even the more I mean, I'm just a first year rookie in NACL as
Yeah.
well with a few other the guys. So um, I'm just getting a bit adapted. Most of them don't have to really talk on their teams. Most
Mhm.
other mid laners, they don't really have as vocal of a voice, but with me, our team dynamic is totally different. So yeah, it's a little bit harder for me, but I think this week scrims has been, or just like the scrim today has been in a right step, and I think we'll definitely be good by the time playoffs or any of that come. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So,
Okay.
a little
Yeah.
curious. We had some chat about format earlier. Like how much the single round robin, two teams relegated format is a little bit brutal. Um, the tiebreakers, if you're at the same overall record, are going to come down to game records. So like winning individual games definitely matters a lot when it's looking like there's a lot of chances of having multiple teams in like that 3-6, 2-7 territory. Does that factor into I guess directed at Elijah, does that factor into like you guys prep at all or how you guys are thinking about the season holistically, or is it still just like taking matchups one week at a time and doing the best you can in each one?
I mean, realistically, the format has its problems. I'm sure that Riot knows that. They tend to know things like that and then do it anyway. Um, so the issues of the format are as follows. Um, for example, we played AoE when they had played 3 games. We had
Mhm.
played, what, I think 4 or 5 at the time.
Mhm.
Um, we have very little to look at. They have a lot more to look at from us. It is what it is. All right, whatever. Sometimes you play no games. Sometimes you play 2 games. Sometimes you play 1 game. Mirage Alliance, for example, at the conclusion of week 5, had played 6 games.
Yep.
More than anyone else, their schedule is extremely front loaded. They're so griefed going into like the last 3 games, based off how much they've shown, how much they've had to play throughout the split, and also kind of a mental thing. Where let's just say you're a team that would like to scale throughout the split. Week 5, 2/3 of your season's done, or week 4, whatever it is, 2/3 of your season's done. That's
Yeah.
extremely rough from them at that point. Um, but when it comes to actual preparation, you really only can take it 1 game at a time. If you do it a different way, I think you're just stupid. Um, like you have to look at it going into it looking to win your next game. You have to get X number of wins to not relegate. After that, every win past that is a luxury, right? Everyone
Yep.
else makes playoffs. There's no cutoff. You just need to not finish 9th, 10th.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that that's our point of view. Obviously, we're looking to win
Mhm.
more games than the bare minimum. But you have to do 1 step at a time. First step is to not relegate. Next step is pick up your luxury wins.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of which, scheduling, because we already know you're playing Maryville next. And you all mentioned, like the middle of the pack team. So you guys have DSG coming up, who are currently ninth place, ninth, 9.5, down there with Mirage Alliance. And then their last team's Team Liquid Challengers. So I'm curious how y'all view Team Liquid Challengers. Do you see them as like a bottom of the pack team, like middle of the pack, top of the pack who had a rough start? Like, where are we looking with those guys?
Every Oops, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Every team that we play is a team that we have to take seriously. We're no longer at the point where we have the ability or even want to look at teams as bottom of the pack teams. We have to win every game in front of us, ideally.
Okay. Messages?
Yeah, to even piggyback off that, like I do think that we don't look at anybody differently, even DSG, right? Even with the rough season they've had, still great players, right? Tenacity, Jan, Poom, Minui and Perry as well. They're all great players. Don't know why it's been so hard to mesh this season, but we can't sleep on them, and especially TLC. They have really good prospects and players as well that have proven themselves. And I do think that they are scaling TLC, and I do think DSG is more on the downcline. Crazy as that is, but
Yeah.
I do think that Romer is starting to find his footing. They're starting to make things work, even though the language barrier, and they look a lot better than the previous weeks that has happened there before. I don't think that 1-4 record before showed their like final form. I guess don't think it was a true indication of their skill.
Fair enough. And I guess that's one of the disadvantages of this sort of single round robin format. Is by the time some of these teams like come to form, because y'all didn't really have an off season, right?
Yeah.
Came into it. It feels like some of these teams which are late scalers might not get the chance to fully show what they're capable of. And I guess that's where relegations come in, because then you face the tier 3 teams, and hopefully if that happens to any team, they're able to come back out. But let's talk about the games, because I feel like it's been a little bit rough for y'all talking about Lit after the O2 weekend. So let's talk about some of the other teams this past weekend. We were talking about TL Challengers. They faced Fear, and those games were kind of spicy. I think Fear as a whole this weekend was kind of spicy.
Well, watching Fear play without Nico is, they have to dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah, but I mean, it's Fearless. They only get it once, right? So,
the games you got to win.
I mean, you only have to win 2 games.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, you should just treat everything like a token.
Yep.
Like the champions are just tokens. So like if something's OP or like you're an OTP on a champion, right? Like we have a Darius token. If somebody doesn't ban it, most likely we should win 1 game on Darius. Sadly, that didn't happen this weekend, but that is the way that it works, right? Just like how I think Toasty Alex, a lot of people know him for his Nico. He has a Nico token. If he ever gets that champion 1 game, they're most likely going to win that game. That's just the way it works.
Okay. Wait.
Yeah.
So actually, that's an interesting way of looking at it, which I kind of hadn't thought about. So does that mean like when you all see these tokens appear, like if you see like Toasty Alex Nico, you kind of go like, okay, this game, don't waste our tokens on this game? Like kind of.
No, it's more.
Go.
Sorry. It's more if we win the game and they burn this, the series is over.
Okay.
In best of 3s. Like if this is their best look, if these picks are stopping us from picking other things, and they burn it in a loss, winning game 2 becomes like 30% easier.
Okay. So would you normally burn your tokens to match their tokens in this case? Like especially in game 1, right? Like you don't know.
So usually it would be like you would burn, like not necessarily us, but the way like you can envision it is you'd waste some tokens on the first game. They would waste some tokens on the first game as well. But that'd be like they waste like 3 of their 1 tricks versus like 2. But if you were to win that game, or if you were to lose that game, you're in a super heavy disadvantage going into the next 2 games. And then your champions pool is just keeping smaller. And then they also still have 5 bans, right? So it means that if you have like one trick that, or 1 player on their team that only has like a 5 champion pool, they play like one of their 1 tricks, they lose on it. It's probably not going to be that great the next 2 games if they also squeeze their bans on that person. So like, I don't know. That's just the way I see Fearless though. It's all tokens.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually really interesting. Yeah, because I was talking to Elijah a little bit before, and I feel like as a viewer, a lot of times it feels like we're seeing the same 30 like champions just cycle through all the teams. So we don't feel the 1 trick power quite as much a lot of times. Like we're aware of it. I mean, the Darius, of course, for Quacker and for Dragoon, the Nico for Toasty, that sort of thing. Yeah, but like it's like we still cycle through. So glad to hear that there is like this idea of power picks, perhaps that is just not as visible, as easily seen to the casual viewer. So Fear had to play 2 series with 1 of their tokens gone, and I guess that kind of shafted them, but they still went 3 games both times. Like every single series, right? I don't think they've had
they have played 15 games in 5 series, so they have gone to 3 games every single series. But yeah, definitely, I think that shows a little bit more in Toasty than it does in a lot of the more experienced players on the roster. Like you can see, he definitely. I think of Toasty from his time in amateur as like a big Yone Nico guy,
Mm.
and like those have been the picks that he's always leaned on pretty heavily. And with the absence of that Yone these last couple, or the Nico a couple weeks especially, he plays the Yone every series he can, but yeah, once you go past those champs, I think you could definitely see it starts to get a little bit less comfortable.
I mean, it was open against Seattle Challengers the entire time. I don't, and he
Did
didn't
he not
pick
play
it.
a game of it against TL? I
No.
know he played a game.
No,
He
he
played at
did.
least one game of it this weekend,
I,
but maybe that was against DSG.
Against TLC, he ended up running the Azure, and then he got the Oriana into the Aurelian Soul, which was
Oh, that game.
yeah, that game was interesting. Actually, what are your thoughts on ASO? Is it viable?
Definitely. I do think that. I think the reason why TLC is more likely to pick it though is because you look at their mid laner in LCS, and that guy is kind of ASOL one trick. So he's probably just like telling Romer, "Hey, it's broken. Hey, it's broken. Hey, you should pick it." And then obviously, that TLC is more likely to pick it because of APA.
Okay, so I
But
expect to see Ziggs come through for Romer. Got it.
yeah, I mean, Ziggs got buffed as well. You should expect to see APA on his one trick when LCS comes back. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I think the last game Tosi played Hui into the Akali, so he actually had Yone open and didn't pick it. Interestingly enough.
Yeah, it doesn't have to play it literally every time it's available, but I think it's definitely been a pick that he's got the majority of the Yone mid games in the split for the league for sure. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I'm sure if I look at how many Yone mids there's been, I'm pretty sure Toasty's got a solid chunk of them. But yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely fair. I definitely miss seeing the Nico where I get the opportunity, and yeah, I don't know. I think there's definitely it's so weird with Fear because I do think they've looked very good, but they do always go to 3 games. They've been taking games against teams that are better than them. They've been dropping games against teams that at least look on paper worse than them. It's very hard to like kind of make a judgment about uh where they stand, but they're winning enough games to likely make playoffs, so we'll almost certainly be getting to see more of them.
Yeah. I mean, other than that, honestly, this weekend I thought was probably one of our more clear-cut weekends. Like, I don't know how you all feel about the matches and the matchups we had because it was Lit versus you guys versus AOE, then Disguise and Fear. Then Fear was shafted because of the as we talked about the Nico bans. Wildcard versus Maryville, I think, was generally considered heavily MU favored. Fly versus you guys, heavily Fly favored. Supernova versus AOB, heavily Supernova favored, even though it did run the 3 games. So yeah, to me, the series that kind of stood out a little bit was that Fear TLC series, and I think messages you kind of mentioned it, the fact that they're making it work with Romer somehow. Romer, I think, has looked better that series than he has any other series so far.
So, I mean, I think that what these NACL or the LCS affiliated teams are doing is now they're starting to scrim with their mid laner on the LCS or stuff like that, just so that the Korean imports can talk with very Korean with Umti. Like Romer could talk with Umti, and they'll play scrims like that sometimes. So I think that's probably been helping TLC a lot, and kind of fix their kind of issues that they've been having. So I think that's why Romer had looked so really good this week because he had some scrims in LCS. He got to talk to Umti and with some native ton, and it just made him really be able to play the game with a lot better. So I think probably expect that same level of performance for the rest of the weeks coming from Romer.
I'm just looking at who they have left. They've got Mirage Alliance, MU, and then you guys.
Yeah, I think actually probably the best match, depending on how the rest of his team goes. But I'd be interested to see how Spyrox versus Romer is. Because I do think that both those mid laners are probably top 3 in the role. I think it probably goes Quad, Romer, and then Spyrox.
Yeah,
So.
I'm kind of curious on the from the mid lane perspective as someone who's a rookie in NACL this split, and even talking about like Toasty and guys like that. Like, feels like there's a couple of rookie NA mids coming in, and then you guys are suddenly kind of tasked with playing up against the Korean mids that just got brought in. I mean, like especially Quad, who's got like
Yeah.
100 LCK games under his belt, and then even Romer as well, who's played in LCK challengers and then has been in obviously in Korean solo queue for forever. Those guys are always so hyped up. Have you found that they kind of live up to the hype a little bit, or has it been underwhelming? Like, how has the vibe been coming into play against some of these some of the Korean mids that have been brought into the league this split?
So I guess for Quad, just when he first got here and we scrimmed him, I thought this guy was a beast. Because the way this guy would play during scrims, he actually just looked like a freak. Like he was just insanely good. And then I think later down he's been actually looking a lot worse. Like even in our match versus us, I think if we played Quad like that first week, I'd probably get a lot more like of a harder time than I did. I actually thought I was kind of chilling, even though I was playing really bad, like extremely bad. But and I think that for Romer though, I think everybody in scrims thought he was like kind of a fraud, like he wasn't as good. Um, and but I do think that he's living to the hype now, and he's kind of becoming that guy. So I do think it's interesting how they scale and descale and how that like kind of affects them. But definitely playing against these guys as like a rookie, it's like I wish I got to play 100 LCK games before I got to play an ACL. So it's definitely different. But I love playing against people that have way more experience than me. And it's obviously really fun to play against these high level players.
Cool.
Okay, I think that's kind of it for this week, unless you all have any particular matches that stood out to y'all. Because
From the last weekend?
yeah,
Hmm.
It was the
Let me
DSG
peep.
Fear match.
There was the
DSG Fear
DSG
match?
Fear match. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that losing that game for DSG was probably very emotionally taxing.
Ooh, yeah.
Given the manner in which they lost and the fact that they had a lot of opportunities to
Yeah.
win that game, on top of the fact that it was Fear. I'm not obviously saying anything towards how they might be feeling about it. I have no idea, but I think it is something to keep an eye on going into week 6.
Yeah. Also, Chad whipping out his Rengar this weekend, both series.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one also in that critical game against
The
this
way the
guy,
level
too.
1 went, that's
Oh wait, that's what happened, right?
yeah, that's
Is the
rough.
Rengar level 1, and then Perry and Chad literally just flipped the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
He
Yeah,
got
I thought that
fucked
was
up and
probably
killed.
the stupidest thing you could do. Flip
Did
the
you see
game.
Chad's
game
interview
3.
after, where he's just like, "I knew I would win it. I knew."
Yep.
This 50-50
No,
was me all day.
I just think that flip 50-15, basically like almost like oh hey, by the way, if we lose this guys, we're in relegations kind of match. Just flipping it like that, I'd be really pissed if that happened. I'd be like, "There's no way you just did that, bro."
Do
Like,
you
it doesn't
think that
matter.
was? Do you think
Huh?
that was lose and you're in relegations territory for Fear?
No, not for Fear.
No, not for Fear, for DSG.
Oh, for DSG.
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
the
that's
fact
totally
that
fair.
Perry
That's
missed it
totally
is
fair.
like, oh, that's really bad. I think it is kind of crazy that, but I mean, that shows like how much trust he has in himself, I guess. To like, okay, I got this, like I'll win it, and then Perry sadly misses it. But I mean, I think it's at least good for them for not giving up their confidence, even with how rough their split has been. So I definitely wouldn't have gone for that if I looked like that during my weeks. But so I keep up. So I give him props for being able to do that and kind of flip the game just on your own skill
Yeah.
level. Yeah.
I mean, realistically speaking, you ever seen Kaiji?
Is that a anime?
Never mind. It is.
I have no idea what this is.
That's
You
fine.
spell it for me?
Kaiji.
Oh,
Say-
yes, I have seen. Okay, I've not seen this, but I've seen memes that
Yeah.
came from this.
It's
Is it
basically
thing.
just it's heavy gambling in a way that I think is very exciting. And Fear probably not Fear did. DSP probably did too until they lost.
Yeah,
based
they
on the
gamble,
manga
like, body
series
parts or
Kaiji. So
something.
it's kind of I was kind of right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've seen like memes of them like like gambling body parts or something like that. Like that's what I saw. I don't know if that's actually
It should be watched by a lot of people.
okay.
I'll
It's
add it to
really
the
good.
list, man.
Kind of sus. Kind of sus. Okay.
IG, the ultimate gambler.
Yeah.
That's Perry's new nickname. Let's go.
It's funny too because I didn't think of Perry as like a gambling style jungler.
I didn't think either.
Yeah,
Well,
he was like to me the image I get of Perry is more like a very calculated, like he knows what he's doing. He's thinking it through before he does it, and gambling is not part of that.
Honestly, realistically speaking, I think it may have been more of a gamble for Chad to try to stay and fight over it. I think there's a chance Chad also dies. If
Well,
Perry
whoever
gets
doesn't get the
red.
buff dies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whoever that's literally they are
Yeah.
literally just flipping the entire game, basically a series on who can press
Mhm.
their F key or D key faster.
yeah.
Like
Or
when
with
it gets
better
that
timing.
certain HP, yeah.
Outsmiting
all the time.
Rengar with Q smite is just that's hard when you're Wukong with E level 1.
Yeah, it was a little rough to watch that after that. And then he had like that where he healed like 700 HP like boss fight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
like, oh, well.
around the Raptor.
Holy crap.
Yeah, on the Raptors, like, oh. And then
Overhead.
I was talking to Munchie too. I was like, yeah, your champion's fair. Yeah, your champion can do this. Like, oh, it's so weak. Oh no. But
I'm just saying, Rengar mid was a thing. Messages. So just
do you know how far the bushes are now? It's like, oh my god, I hate getting Rengars in my solo key games though. Like, how do you gank mid? Like, already it was so hard to gank mid sometimes, but like now it's like impossible unless I'm playing Ivern. Then like, but
yeah. Ivan Rengar. That is an OG combo.
I might have to bust that out.
Kitso Robbie
Yeah.
Rob, right? They were the original who pulled it out here in T3 or T2.
Stuff to keep in mind. All right. Well, we can transition into our kind of more miscellaneous section here, I suppose. Any other thoughts or hot takes coming in for week number 6, or given maybe other news from the last week that anybody wants to chat about during our time here?
Yeah, and just to be clear, week 6, Saturday is Wildcard versus Fear, Supernova versus DSG, Maryville versus Fly Challengers, which I think a lot of people are keeping eyes on.
Oh yeah.
Sunday then is TL Challengers versus Mirage, Fly Quest Challengers versus AOE, and MU versus Lit, where you guys are going to become miraculously 4-3 after beating them. So
Realistically, I think we probably already given our hot takes that MU will beat Fly.
do you think that's a hot
given
take?
that one.
I mean,
Okay.
compared to what everyone else thinks.
I think people are slowly starting to get converted. The first MU is the best team in NACL take I saw was Chad. I think Chad tweeted it last week before this week's matches.
Well, I think I think they got 5-0 in scrims, and so he just tweeted it as like a joke.
Well,
And then we actually scrimmed Maryville, and then they told us to tweet that as well. And then we were just like,
they're just
okay.
trying to convert people. They're
yeah,
like,
and I was just
they're
like,
missionaries.
and we were just like, oh, okay. But we never ended up tweeting it because we didn't care. But I do think that is something they.
You think that they were put up to it? You think that you don't think that's Chad's real opinion?
I think that Chad got he got mind controlled.
Okay, but it is your real opinion, even though you're not mind controlled.
Yeah, I do think that they probably are
Okay,
the best.
all right. I'm just checking in on that. All right.
Yeah. Messages didn't put it out last week so that he could really mean it when he says it this week.
Yeah,
He's a real
true.
one that way.
Yeah,
That's true. That's fair.
Um,
I think TLC Mirage is kind of interesting as
Yeah.
well, because loser of that game is pretty boomed. Like if, yeah, I mean Mirage still hasn't played Fly Challengers either, and I know you guys said they were on the downswing earlier. I don't know if they're that much on the downswing.
I think it's possible that you don't see probably wild card win another series, and then yeah, I think that's probably like my hottest take. For the entire rest of it, you probably don't see them because they're against Fear. I do think that Fear has the advantage there, and then the next match is AOE.
Yep.
I do think that AOE is that is actually such a close matchup, so that's going to be the deciding factor. But I definitely do think that Supernova takes it over wildcard as well. But the AOE wildcard, I mean, AOE was definitely a good team when we fought them. They did cheese us with Smolder. It's okay. we cheesed wildcard with it. So
Yep.
But yeah, I do think that I'd probably favor AOE over wildcard when it comes to that matchup. So
Yep. I completely Yeah, I completely agree about wildcard potentially being on the path. There's like an interesting path forward where like we could have like 4 teams, I think, at 2 and
2
7
wins.
when this is all done.
Yeah,
All
I do think that is definitely a big possibility.
Mm-hmm.
It obviously just depends on, because wouldn't that, for that to happen, wouldn't DSG have to beat us? And then
We'd have
yeah,
to.
I mean,
Or,
we'll see. Yeah, there's multiple paths. Like DSG could beat you, or like Mirage could beat DSG,
Or they
that's
could
and
not
beat
DSG
happening.
beats
Supernova.
you guys.
Oh
And
my God! Wait, Mirage versus
that's not
DSG.
possible.
That's actually the closest. Okay, so if Mirage loses the next series, they're guaranteed in promotion relegation. Yes or no? Because then
No.
they would have lost.
Abstain. I don't know.
No,
Because
I
they
don't
would
think
have.
so.
they're not guaranteed.
Is then
Yeah.
they're not
Highly likely,
guaranteed.
it's highly
Okay.
likely, but not guaranteed.
I thought it was
my
once
gut
you're at
instinct is
6
not guaranteed.
wins. Oh, okay. I thought it was when you're at 6 losses, you're guaranteed in promotion.
Nah, because there's
No.
definitely space
No,
for
'cause you
more than
can-
2 teams to
Like
get 6 losses.
it's
Yeah.
pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
who's their head against? Isn't it against AoE?
Yeah.
And that's it?
Uh-huh.
But head to head is not
Well-
the tiebreaker. Tiebreaker is game record.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's the amount of games you played?
Amount of games you won.
Oh, amount of games you won.
Or other way, amount of games you've lost, because everybody should have your win should be the same for that rank, right? Because it's 2. So the less losses you have.
Well, no, because you could get 1 win in a series you lose.
Oh,
So
that's
it'd be-
true. Wait. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
right.
your win percentage.
Yeah.
Your win percentage is the tiebreaker.
Yep.
I see, okay.
Not well, no. Actually,
If there's more than 2 teams that are tied,
If there's-
the win percentage. Yeah.
Yeah, and then if it's just 2 teams, then I think it.
if
You
it's
know
just
what?
2
I don't
teams,
know
is
what
it head to
the rules.
head? I don't even think that's the case.
Wait, you're the one person who read the
Regardless,
rules,
I
Gordo.
don't-
That's why
I
I'm saying
don't-
I'm not sure
I
about
don't
that.
care right
I don't know
now.
if y'all
Yeah.
watched the early episodes. There's an episode 2 with Cubby, me, and Gordo. Cubby
Yeah, let's
passed this
reference our
stuff.
own episode. All right, let's keep the conversation going, and I will.
Okay, you
look.
sure? Okay.
And
that's
I
fine.
have the rule book on my phone. It's a different
Okay.
access everywhere else, so I
You know,
will find this out.
While Gordo's looking that up, actually, I think that's an interesting take about Wildcard not winning another game. So what do you think went wrong, or what do you think went right with Wildcard that they won? They start 3-0, and then just
Well, they started 2-0.
2-0. Sorry, yeah, and then they just haven't won.
Well, the things that went right is that they played TLC when Romer was still getting super new, and I think
Mhm.
Romer like an AI. And then they played against Mirage Alliance, where Mirage Alliance is Mirage Alliance. That's everybody's token win, somewhat.
Okay.
So I think that's what went right for them. And then after that, then their best chance to pick up a game was unironically against us week 4,
Mhm.
and DSG. That was their best chance. Because if they won game week 3 against DSG when DSG looked really on the decline, that was their chance to submit that, oh, hey, we're not in the promotion relegation. But
Right.
after losing that game, they've been on a really big decline. And
That makes sense. I did look it up. It's match win percentage, then game win percentage. If they're tied in both, then it's combined wins against other teams within the tie. So even if it's only 2 teams, it's game win percentage before head to head.
Okay.
us.
That
I see.
okay. That's very counterintuitive.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
That's
I feel
going to
like
get real controversial when we have 4 teams at 2 and 7, and we have to
Yeah.
figure out who's getting relegated. This is going to become this is the drama 3 weeks
No.
before it happens.
If
Everybody
it's 4
gear up.
teams, I think it's fine. But if it's 2 teams, that's when it gets spicy.
Because I do think that head-to-head matters more when it comes to this.
Agree.
Because it's like, oh, well, we beat this team. We're definitely better than them. They just
Mhm.
managed to beat X team and X team on these weeks when we had to play them these weeks. And they, obviously, there's so many things that come in to such a short season, which is something I did very dislike about this. We only play, if you were to do it all, it's 9 teams. So not that many. I mean, it's just not a lot of games. It doesn't matter about the map. It's literally
Somewhere
not a lot of
between
games.
18 and 27 games.
Yeah, it's just not. It's not.
I do want to say something, and I do want to shut this down before the inevitable conversation happens.
Let's do it.
There's a conversation that normally happens. People have talks like this that says, "Why do you care so much? Just win." Well, if we keep allowing these people to come up with rule sets that are inherently terrible, why are we letting them get away with this? You know what I mean? we have some sort of say, do we not? Can we not say something to say, hey, your rule set sucks. You should change it in the future, rather than just say, no, just win more games, dude. No, just being a. Am I allowed to swear here?
Yeah.
Quit being a fucking loser. Like, in what situation are we sitting here allowing them to come up with the worst rule set known to man and being like, well, maybe if you won more games, the rule set wouldn't be so bad. No, the rule set would still be fucking bad. We would just, not we, but whoever is talking would not be relegated.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like I said, I don't like this non-head-to-head thing
for these people.
I'm an active rules hater. Yeah, no, you're never gonna get any pushback here. I'm actively unhappy about some of the rules. So.
And isn't it like LCS, right? They only have 8 teams, so they basically only play 14 games of regular season.
Correct.
If they don't make playoffs.
Yes.
Which is like also something that I think is like super highly controversial.
Yep.
That those players are getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they could go 8th place or 7th place, still get a bag, which is great for them. But it's like that's not enough experience for an entire NA ecosystem, and it's not a good enough. Like it's just not good to show that little games and for that much of money investment at that time. That doesn't make sense. Like I do think that the best 2 out of 3 format probably should go to LCS as well.
Yeah, and
and it should be double round robin as well.
True. Yeah. Well, double round robin has its own set of issues with time. I think is the biggest problem. Literally,
time's made up. You can figure it out.
Yeah,
bro, I already have to watch way too many games every week. But yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised if NACL was kind of testing ground for this format, and if it works well, maybe they up it towards LCS as well, and we start seeing major regions follow along with this sort of.
Well, I mean, LCK already does 10. True. They have. I'm pretty sure they have. I mean, LPL also does it, and they have 18 teams in LPL.
The LPL is built different. I don't know how that.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, though.
LPL
it's like,
isn't full round robin. LPL, you play like.
Yeah, they do like some weird.
But
okay,
I get it,
but even if you took LCK
does it.
They're double round robins, 10 teams, which what the LCS should have. And they play best of 3s. Like I think every team probably plays twice a week. I would assume, or something like that.
It works out to be something like that.
Yeah. But that's just the thing. It's like that's like an actual schedule for a professional player. That should be how it's supposed to be. So I don't know, because then it allows people to be attached to more of our imports. If they have like a bad showing, then people don't merge them so much, or just even some of our native talent that people just don't judge them off of 14 games if they do really bad.
Yeah, I hate. I'm just agreeing. Like I hate best of ones because anything can happen in a flipping best of one. We see it all the time in Swiss stage and tier 3 as well. And I don't like the single round robin because, as you guys have already discussed, the strength of schedule becomes so important in a single round robin that it's disgusting. Like literally the first couple, like in any league, the first couple of weeks tend to be like throwaway weeks where everybody's like trying to figure out, how to get back into the swing of things. Stage is different from scrims and all that sort of stuff. So no, I agree with you. I wish there would be, double round robin, best of 3s. To me, that'd be ideal. And I'd also love to see actual fearless, but that's a whole other discussion.
Oh, I want actual fearless as well. I hate this bitch fearless.
I think actual fearless is fundamentally bad.
Oh,
fundamentally bad?
Yeah, I think it's bad. I think that allowing one team, it just heavily weights things over to blue side, and allowing one team to essentially just pick the strongest thing on patch and then no one else gets to play it is stupid. Basically, it basically mandates a ban on red side no matter what. Or at least in this version of fearless, you can like potentially look to give it up and play the counter into it, and then maybe you'll get it later on. Like now it's just like, all right, well, no matter what, red side needs to ban the strongest thing on patch, because if they get the chance to play it, we'll never get the chance to play it ever. Like in any scenario. Like I think that the current style, while less exciting, is better.
Well, is that any different from normal draft style where like red side always has to ban the OP? Like no matter who's in red side, they just have to ban it every single game. Like
Not
at least if it's
but I think the point is somebody has to start on. Well, yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah. I get what you're saying. Never mind.
Yeah, like somebody just eat the OP once, you know. Whereas like in the current sort of tier 1 format where there is no fearless whatsoever, red side just has to ban it every single time to the point where it's like, yeah, like we lose a ban just for playing on red side.
Yeah, it's also a double round robin BO1, and the meta changes a lot with live patches. It's a little bit different, I think. I think BO3s it matters a little bit more, given the fact that one team will get 2 blue side games if they want them.
I also think the coin flipping is so stupid.
Oh yeah,
how side select works. It's so bad.
So wait, which region is doing? Is it LPL that does the 1v1s now? Or is it
PCS.
They 1v1 for
PCS does 1v1 for side selection.
Yeah.
Wait, that'd be so hype.
Yeah, I am so down. Like I am so man. I wish we had that.
What do they do? Do they just like select like a champion or something, or what do they?
No, each team. I think it's each team picks a player, and then it's just. I don't know if there's bans or anything, but it's just like you just go 1v1 Howling Abyss.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's so hype. I'd be so down.
Wait, Elijah, were you hype or are you muttering?
No, I'm saying we're scrimming 1v1s to get side select every game.
Let's go.
Yeah.
No, because I think we're one of the teams that we get 4 games of side select, right?
Yeah.
Out of 5. Yeah.
And they're all our hardest games.
Yeah. We only get to so there's I think a few teams that get only 4 games or 4 series where they get side select, and then they get 5 series where the other team has side select. Mm-hmm. And we're one of those teams where we only get 4 games. So it's kind of like, fucked. Yeah, and they're all our hard, like Elijah just said. I didn't know that. They're all our hardest series, so it's most likely we're probably not going to win them already. Yeah. And we got our most important ones. Yeah.
Yeah. And then FlyQuest, Maryville, and TLC, I believe.
I mean, TLC is
or DSP would have been better. One of the two. Either way.
Yeah.
Man. I think it'd be also really good just for teams as well, because then you actually have to build a team. Like sometimes you get teams where people are like, oh, you know, they don't have the strongest players, you know, they don't have the top 3 player, but they made top 3 because of like synergy and, you know, like a whole bunch of other intangibles, or they just work well together. Yeah, I think having 1v1s would force teams to be like, okay, we need that 1-star player.
No, that actually needs to be like kind of talked about, because that does sound super hype, because it's also something that you could show it before the game. This team is playing before, you know, for side select. It's like, what? That's so sick. I would love it if somebody were to stream that. That'd be so hype.
Okay, so from a broadcast point of view, like I know this won't affect you guys as players and all that, but you know how like their LCS right now they're pre-drafting to like reduce the in between time. Just play the 1v1s in the in between time, like a match ahead, right? And that would fill your time. Like it's so good from so many different perspectives. Yeah, I'm hoping the PCS. There's been a lot of hype around it. I'm hoping that, you know, it really takes off and other regions start to adapt it, because
that's sick.
No, the only time it was really in like the public discussion this year has been when like Gory threw his 1v1 for side select.
For basing
by recalling during, because they have the Ring of Fire thing from Earth, not Earth, from whatever the hell that mode is called, where it starts collapsing in and forcing you to like get closer to each other as time goes on, and he like recalls to buy as that's coming in and just burns himself out. That was a rough one. But
I actually have a really funny story about playing that mode at Worlds last year. I ended up like sitting down, and there's like 2 queues you can get in. It's like one that's like Masters and above, and then one that's like Diamond and below or something like that. So then I obviously got in the Masters one. So like I would just play anybody that's Masters and above. And then I ended up going against like he's like a 15-year-old kid, and he was like super new. He was like, oh yeah, I finally hit Masters this season. He was like talking to me. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, yeah, good luck. And then we go sit down. I ended up like trying to tower dive him, and it's like 2 kills after like 7 minutes, before 7 minutes, and then you lose, and then 1 kill after 7 minutes, you win. So then I ended up like trying to tower dive him. I failed tower dive him, and I died. And I was like, oh, that was like before 7 minutes. So I was like, okay. And then I like sat up in my chair, and I just started freezing on him in the mode. And he couldn't touch this mini wave for literally until the ring was about to collapse, and he just got 1v1 by me. And he just like had to accept his death, and he didn't even shake my hand after. And I felt so bad because I felt like such an asshole. And then I got like the $10 RP card after, and I was like,
and it was all worth it, baby.
Yeah. I felt so bad.
It feels like one of those button questions, like, would you kick a 15-year-old for $10?
Yeah, and then I just was like, oh, you know, a good game. And he was just like, yeah. And he just walked away, and I was like, oh shit, I feel so bad. And then my friends were just making fun of me the whole time, like, how did you even die? And I was like, I don't even want to talk about it. But then they're like, it was like, I think the score, like after it was like 90 CS to like 26 or something. It was like something like crazy like that. It's like after he solo killed me, he just was not able to touch his wave. And then it was pretty funny.
Yeah, that's just how. That's what it is. That's what it's like playing stuff that isn't online only. Like if you ever play Magic tournaments or anything, like everybody has that moment where you got to go in, you got to play your tier 1 deck up against a 10-year-old and in Swiss stage, and it's just like, put him up, buddy. Let's see how it goes.
Imagine that just like a rite of initiation. Every new player who comes into the league has to play like the first 1v1 for deciding side selection. And the other teams are just putting the most veteran player up against you every time. Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. Unfortunately, not quite in yet, but you know, we're kind of hoping for it. Yeah, I think we touched on hot takes. Maryville beating FlyQuest, Wildcard, not picking up another game. Yeah, I think
well, so the big news for the week is the Morningstar stuff. We want to chat about Morningstar.
Oh yeah, I mean that's not technically the NACL, but let's get into it because
it's the same. It's the same environment.
Yeah.
If we wanna have a quick little.
No, Elijah, you're rubbing your hands clear over there.
I said the magic words.
All right. We talked about this a little bit before the show. First things first. Let's talk about let's talk about competitive viability for a second. The idea that there are unironically people that reported Yusin after losing, like pigs, that reported him after losing in order to try to get a higher placement or more points, and it was multiple teams, and I know for a fact that those multiple teams reported him after losing in order to get higher points and more placement, is truly pathetic behavior. It is rat behavior. You should be ashamed of yourself. If you had a problem with it, you should have had a problem at the beginning, not when they were a 32 seed. You didn't think you wouldn't have to play. You should have had a problem right away. And you're a pig for doing that, and you know that you're a pig for doing that. In any case, the reality of the situation is that Morningstar White would have won the tournament. Everyone knows it, which is why they were reported, right? If you want to take away their prize money, sure, take away their prize money. Who cares? If you want to say that they, I don't know, some sort of sanction, I don't care. But the fact that you wait till the semifinals to kick a team that was clearly the best team in the tournament at the behest of people that are literally just whiny, pathetic crybabies is truly sickening behavior from all parties involved. The parties that called him out to be banned, the parties that made the decision to be banned, hiding behind stupid things like the law. Like, we know that's not real. Just give them prize money.
Let's go.
What are we saying here? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, guys, this podcast is gold. It's gonna be like one of the last times you ever see Elijah.
It's so nonsensical that we've reached this situation with Morningstar White. And again, these people know who they are. They know exactly who they are, and they're probably proud of it, tweeting on their little Twitter accounts that they got a player banned that was literally shitting down their throats every single game. Good job, guys. You will win the next OQ, I think.
Oh man.
Anyway.
No,
yeah, I don't know.
I can get on board with that. Fuck the law. No, but
it's a pirate ship of a broadcast.
Fuck it. I mean, I don't know. We're deep enough in. Only the true Interstellar radio fans are even still here at this point. So let's talk to the inner circle here a little bit. But yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree there. I think that if there's any kind of good outcome here, it's that it's gotten a lot more discourse going around student visas and their ability to participate in these events, in OQs and in things like that. And that's like that's the two-sided coin, right? Like the good thing is that people are paying attention to it more now. The annoying thing is that it takes something like this to get people to pay attention to it, right? Because it takes Morningstar, checking their little box that I'm a resident, and by the way, like that Riot has their own definition of like resident. That's like that not everybody who checks that box knows what it means. I'm not going to make any allegations one way or the other as to whether or not Morningstar knowingly violated rules or whether they, just thought, oh, hey, I got a student visa. I'm here legally. Therefore, good to go. Check the box. Like I think both possibilities are on the table. I haven't spoken to them. I don't know which it is. But it's frustrating that it takes somebody knowingly or not violating the rules, making it to top 4, gathering a lot of fans along the way, and then getting DQ'd to like make this conversation around changing the rules happen when there's previously been guys like Akashi who came to this region and were some of the best players in our solo queue and wanted to play competitive and could not because they were limited around the rules. So it's frustrating that guys like Akashi have come and gone, and it took a team accidentally, quote unquote, making semifinals while breaking the rules to have the conversation occur at all. Obviously, they shouldn't have been DQ'd. They should have been allowed to finish out the tournament. The rule's stupid in the first place. Fuck all that. But it's frustrating that it takes like a crazy situation like this to have the conversation when the conversation's been ongoing for forever. Just from players who very few people outside of like the amateur community like knew about.
Yeah, I do think it's very unfortunate that it took
Shogo too.
this.
I see Leanne's mentioning Shogo in the chat. Like same deal with Shogo, right? When he was at UST, his teammates were playing on other OQ teams, and that left him unable to participate.
Well, I don't know if you even had the rule that allowed them. If USC had played, I don't know if they would have allowed Shogo at the time. I think they changed it after at the time that colleges could play together if your player is.
I do not know.
Yeah. So I do think, to be fair to Riot Rally Cry, like I do think they do make changes. It's just unfortunate that sometimes, or a lot
You
of
don't
times,
have to be fair to Riot.
Well, fine. I'll be fair to me because I do think that Riot and Rally Cry do actually pay attention. When these things crop up, they do try and make changes to it. And I think that's why the discussion is now happening. I agree with your point that it was unfortunate. It took this to make it happen in this particular situation.
And speaking of Riot and Rally Cry and discussions that are coming from situations like this, there's an entirely separate discussion about how, I guess, the new punishment system that's been going on at the OQ level. From what I understand, the people that have been making decisions on punishments and bans recently have changed.
Okay.
Or at least they're, if not them changing, the guidelines in which they work off of have changed to an extent. Somewhat, in my opinion, unfairly. To the point where people that maybe should be getting a warning or should be getting talked to before getting banned are just getting outright banned, very little chance of appeal. Obviously, they are hitting on some of them. Stuff like the Duo King ban makes sense. But there are some other bans that have come out recently, as well as in the last year or so, that have been borderline nonsensical. It seems like it's almost maybe an automated ban, just based off of someone just reading it and being like, "Oh, this is something you shouldn't say. You're banned," instead of looking at the context around something. And I feel like this should maybe something that should be a lot less stringent. I mean, do we really want to be in a situation where we're diluting our already gimped, not champion pool, but talent pool in North America by getting rid of people that realistically didn't do that much wrong, if not anything at all? In some people's cases, I won't name anybody's names, but there are some cases where you look at it and it's just like, this should have maybe been a warning. Don't do it again. But instead, you're just 6-month ban, year-long ban. Be serious. Be serious for a second.
Yeah, I kind of agree as a player. I think obviously Elijah and me have been affected by that on with Sajed. You know, kind of getting punished that way. Kind of really fucks over your entire season.
Who,
really
by the
hard.
way, was literally unbanned within like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So even
And
Riot knows the banning didn't make it. So why are you going to unban him in 2 weeks if you banned them initially for 6 months? Like,
Wait, what happened
who
with
is
the Sajid
overlooking
ban?
this?
I think I'm not like up to date with what happened to that.
Sajid just got toxic in solo queue. He just said something not crazy, not too crazy. Something that if you saw it out of context, then it would be like, that's a little weird. But when there's context added to it, which Riot wanted, he added context, and then they said, "Oh, okay," and then they reduced his band.
Okay, this is why you guys had
which
to
is
play
why
Rock
I
Room, right?
said,
Yeah, this is why we got
okay.
Which is why I said it's almost as if like there's a bot or something going over it, because anyone that is reading it and reading it critically and is able to have some level of reading comprehension can take a look at it and say, "Oh, this is a warning. Don't talk like this in the future." But this is clearly not what was being said. And again, when they looked at it in 2 weeks, they're like, "Oh, our bad." But by then, we think our season's already over because we're having to make a substitution in the middle of OQ2, which obviously it wasn't awesome, but
that was
too little, too late from Riot.
relegations.
Okay,
yeah. We had to make that change from going from OQ2s into relegations.
No, we did in the middle of OQ2. Remember, we played Rockboom against Winthrop when we lost.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did we?
Yes, we did.
I agree with Elijah. I remember this.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Obviously, it's your life.
I didn't remember that.
But I remember it happening in the middle of OQ2.
Oh, really?
We had 3 days with Rockboom before having to play.
Yeah. Because then we talked. Then he had. Yeah. Then we talked with Riot about it, and then also, I remember this year, somebody posted like everybody's like, "Oh, these are the people that are still on chat restriction," or like still
that was Riot Games.
Yeah, the watch
somebody who posted that. Yeah.
And then I was just like, "Oh." And then I remember getting a bunch of people DMing me like, "What did you do? What did you do?" And I was just like,
"Oh yeah, you're on probation, right?"
Yeah, I was on probation. Yeah. Which if you looked at my probation, you'd think it's the stupidest shit in the world. But the list is public, so people can look at it. But somebody just posted it, and then everybody was like, "Oh my god, what? This player's so toxic." And I was like, "Well, if you heard some other things that people say and they don't get in trouble for it, then you'd think that
the craziest thing about that list,
but the details are not public, right?
Go ahead, RMC. Sorry.
The list is public, but the details are not, right?
The list is no longer public either. They took down the list.
Oh, they took it down? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was just thinking, like, I remember the LCS, whenever they hand out a ban or a fine, they detail everything. Like,
yes, but that's at the pro level.
Well, I feel like if you're handing out bans at the semi-pro level,
a lot of it wasn't bans. Bans at the semi-pro level, they did detail.
Okay.
To an extent, at least the Duo King one they did. Other ones they did.
But like Sajid, they didn't, right? Like.
No, Sajid, they.
I guess
they
just tier 3, so they might have.
Yeah.
Well, they just talked to him, and then he kind of realized that information to us, and then we kind of
I
just
fell
like,
to my knees in the middle of a parking lot in the south side of Chicago.
I mean, your prayers were answered. You got Rockboom, and that worked too. So
yeah.
And it definitely worked out for us, but it was just sad that all the effort that we put in after losing Che already, which is somebody that we enjoyed having, and then kind of having make Plugs fill in substitution to now, Rockboom, we need to call you now. It's like so many crazy things that split. So honestly, it's crazy that we're even in an ICL with just all the random shit that happens. So.
And I think that's one of the big reasons why I was really cheering for y'all as the underdogs as well. To be able to make miracle runs happen, get some upsets. Yeah, I think my biggest problem is that Riot isn't that transparent at this level, unfortunately. Because I do think they try and fix things after. But it'd be nice to know, like, I guess, in advance, like what the problem was and stuff like that. And maybe like things like Sajid's situation could be avoided if it was more public and people could step forward with that information that maybe Sajid didn't have available himself or
Well, I also think
that's maybe a bad idea. I don't think that stuff should be public attached to your name, because it is attached to your name. Some of the people had their chat logs released attached to their names. They're unemployable.
Well, then maybe those people should think twice before.
Sure, those people, sure, but there should at least be a human taking a look at them before handing out a ban and ruining someone's year.
And I guess it would go both ways, that transparency, right? If the player really said something that they really shouldn't have, then that works against them. But on the other hand, if the whoever's supervising it, perhaps makes mistakes a bit overly harsh in some situations or is lacking critical information, then that, maybe you'll get corrected a little bit quicker, or, it's easier to see where things went wrong, and I guess to correct them, if that's the case.
The crazy thing about that list when it came out is it's like top to bottom, like every single player on it is just like the most broad terminology imaginable. Like it's very non-specific. It was just like solo queue toxicity or something like that. Like everyone short of King Vex is just solo queue toxicity, and then he's in there as inappropriate conduct or
Tuscaloosa,
something
most
like
wanted.
that. So it's like there's no nuance at all in that list. It's just everybody
Yeah,
on
maybe
the
that
board.
one should have been public.
It was literally in the newspaper.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like that one's its own category. Don't get me wrong, but that the rest is a big range. There's definitely so it's very it was very non-specific.
So I still can't get it on my head.
I see why they took it down. It was
that's the end of the range was King Vex. Like that's where we.
Yeah, well, no, that's the only one that deserves its own name, I guess. Everybody else, indistinct from Duo King to guys who are just on probation. It's all just the exact same verbiage for why they're banned, and that's, it could afford a little more nuance.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of hot takes or a lot of other things we touched on.
I think the where I fall in this
Elijah.
conversation is just like it's frustrating when like players who are not even really like who are like not even banned in the game are like getting banned from comp. Like it feels like it's backwards, right? Like it's crazy that there's players that are like still banned from comp that are like playing in solo queue and super high rank and playing Aegis and like playing all that different stuff, and it's like only the part that gets you a career and like matters to Riot Games is the part where you're punished. It's like so weird that like
right, like they can't control Asia. So
well, it feels like it should be the other way around, right? Like it should be like if you should get your solo queue accounts banned, and then like it should be a higher standard for getting taken out of OQs and stuff like that. Like one of those is like first of all has direct benefits to Riot and direct benefits to the whole scene of like allowing access to the competitive environment, and the other is like an account. Like it's crazy. I don't know. It's crazy to me that like a guy who doesn't, or a booster or somebody, anybody who doesn't care about who is like just playing the game can like just cycle through accounts constantly and it like does not matter. But someone who is trying to be a part of the community and like participate in the competitive scene is like held to a crazy higher standard. I don't really agree with it. I think we should be trying to maximize what's available in the talent pool, especially given what we have in North America right now.
Well, you're also saying that Riot's punishing system would have to work for that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that would also that would definitely help.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever gonna happen. So
what happened to Tribunal, man?
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Tribunal. But yeah, that's like acting like that would need to work. I wish there was some sort of high elo like spectator that would literally expect and be like, yeah, this guy should probably be banned, and then probably goes from there, or even like a bunch of high elo players that supervise like games be like, okay, well this guy's clearly not kind of meant to be here, or this guy's clearly trolling, and they have some connect to Riot or some sort of way that way, gets them banned.
Yeah.
Actually, you're in CQ. And that was what's supposed to happen in CQ. Did it work for CQ?
Yeah, somewhat.
Well, CQ wasn't around long enough to really see if it worked.
Yeah. But yeah, like I think messages is like getting at the point though, right? It's like people can be hanging out in high elo solo queue, messing up games for randos, treating their teammates like shit all day long, and not get anything. But if they choose to compete in open competition with teammates that they choose and orgs that choose them, they're like those are the ones that get banned out. Like it feels like passerby not doing anything get the worst end of the stick in both cases.
I mean,
Also,
I do.
yeah.
Sure, go ahead, messages.
I'm sure Riot would say we would ban the high elo griefers and trolls if we could,
Well, I just think that if you do something wrong, you should get punished. But
Mhm.
in terms of competitively, it should be like looked at more seriously. Like, oh, hey, do we actually think that this is punishable by this much? Like, do I think that I want to make it so you literally can't compete for a year because you said that somebody's mom something like, well, depending on what you said, yeah, but sometimes it's not that deep. But Riot just treats it like said something horrible.
Yeah, and I think
So.
part of that is also that when you do go higher, especially like kind of what you mentioned earlier, messages, the fact that the difference between tier 3 and tier 2 is how many eyes are on you. If you go up there, I think Riot holds you to a higher standard because you have more influence on people at that point. Like if you're a 10 viewer streamer sort of thing and you say something horrible like that, you affect those 10 people. And it's still not good, don't get me wrong. I agree with messages. If you're wrong, you should just be punished, period. But I think the severity of it kind of matters as you scale up as well. So like an LCS player saying something like that on stage with tens of thousands of viewers, that becomes a much bigger incident for Riot to deal with. And if anything, I kind of wish to just have like more stringent rules in general, just about what you can like disable all chat if you need to. If this is going to become an issue and you all have to like start going through all these chat logs to figure out who's right, who's wrong, just say don't all chat in these games. Go to solo queue and do it. Go to your Discord lobby and do it. But don't do it in game here on a competitive stage at all levels. If you want to do that, like any Riot level, just put that rule in.
Consistency is key. I think that's the takeaway here. Well, that's as good a spot as any, I think, to wrap on up. This has been a fun back end of the conversation, but thank you guys so much for hopping on, Elijah and messages. Really appreciate getting to talk to both of you guys about your thoughts. Last word goes to you. Anybody you want to shout out? Anything you want to say to everyone who's tuned in this far?
Shout out my girlfriend, and then shout out the team. Obviously, been a rough couple of weeks, but it's okay. We bounced back, and I hope that everybody can enjoy our play in playoffs. And and just looking forward to being able to play more on the NACL stage.
Elijah?
Well, I don't really have anyone, I guess. Twitter support unban me. I've done nothing wrong.
I do think as Elijah's
Don't say it.
player, he probably should kept banned. Just keep it like that. It's probably better for all of Twitter. You don't
just
ban
saying, Elijah.
him.
Like, yeah, I'm friends with you, but I have you muted on Twitter for a reason.
I do have him muted on Twitter. I think
I have Elijah unmuted. I'm just saying. All right.
Yeah, I thought when you said it in the beginning of the episode, I wanted to bring it up. When you said that, like, I saw it on your Twitter, I was like, you see Elijah's tweets?
I do. I do see Elijah's tweets occasionally. Like organically. I'm not stalking
I see his tweets too, but usually I go to his Twitter profile. Some nights, you just get that feeling that you need to feel something to be alive. And you go
I
to
have reported him a few times, but other than that,
but not in public, not on the bus. You don't scroll that Twitter on the bus. I'm just saying.
I don't. Yeah, I don't.
I
can't remember,
dude. I'm never on a bus. Only my tweets are only to my eyes.
I do remember the first time I met Elijah, and he followed me on Twitter. I was in a call with everybody else, like all the other coaches. Like, you should probably mute his tweets immediately. And I was like, is Elijah really that bad? And he's like, he's horrible. And so I was like, okay. Literally, the first thing I did after following Elijah was I instantly muted him. I didn't even read a single tweet. And
so you're going off of secondhand knowledge here. You're not even.
Well, yeah, but then I've seen a few, and I'm like,
I don't know messages. I think in order not to be a ban bot and like properly assess the situation, you need to go through some of those logs. You need to go through.
Let me go through some of the tweets right now. Oh, that's right. Forgot. It's kind of gone.
I'm sorry, this just started to play with you.
Thank you, everybody.
I am not very liked by the community at large. That's fair. Not a very likable person.
No, Elijah, I love you, buddy.
It is what it is.
You're a great coach.
You're a good guy.
This has been fun. Well, thanks so much for hopping on, guys. Twitter, unban Elijah. Give the man another chance. Or don't. I don't know. You choose who to listen to. Thank you all for tuning in. We're going to be back next week. New guests, new topics, and a new week of the NACL. But until then, stay tuned to the Supernova channel, and we'll see you next time.